as we are supposed to start with this new chapter, it's talking about the five kingdom classification. That now the question comes, why do we need to classify? Okay, so in the first chapter we were talking about biodiversity, right? So when organisms are n number, you need to understand their co-relationship, just to understand their relationship and to make things better. In order to avoid confusion, we need to study about every species that's available on earth, right? So just to make sure we learn and study every individual, every species available on earth, we had this greatest contribution being done by R.H. Whittaker, who actually did the classification part. So it was easy for us to study organisms in a better organized way. So the five kingdom, I'm just going to repeat it, okay? The first was the Monera, and the second one you have, okay, so when you say Monera means most primitive, Purana, सबसे पुराना, okay, बहुत छोटा, and single cell. But in your textbook you have multicell also, and there is no nucleus in Monera. So in Monera we have certain, in your textbook we are dealing with RK in detail and eubacteria in detail. So this is Protista. Protista is something very unique. Initially it was not considered separate, it was part of the plants only, but then later on the qualities were found. So they are having nucleus. They are of two types, plant type Protista and animal type Protista. So you must be remembering all this, right? ये जितने भी हैं ये आपको याद होंगे, amoeba and all, right? So plant type कौन से? Diatoms, algae, euglena, and they make their own food. That's why plant type. These are animal type, amoeba, paramecium, plasmodium. So for a while when you talk about plasmodium, you have any idea where you've heard this? No. Malaria, you've heard of malaria. Somebody will ask you how you got malaria. So सीधा जवाब क्या आता है? अरे मच्छर ने काटा इसीलिए. No. Machar, or we can say mosquito, it's just a vector. It's a carrier. It's carrying Protista, that's plasmodium. We wax in it. अब plasmodium को carry करता है mosquito का body, and then it will inject into our body so that we get malaria. So we have this characteristics. Now you remember the picture of diatoms. आपके दिमाग में diatoms बिल्कुल clear होने चाहिए, हम उसको detail में पढ़ेंगे. And the next categorization is kingdom fungi, fungi, where we have yeast, mushroom, and the moles on the bread you can see. So this is something very important. I want you just have a look at this structure. अगर इसको ध्यान से देखोगे, I'm just going to forward. Can you see red line like structure, red structure? What is this actually? This is called as hyphae. This is a special feature of a fungi. Okay, so we just this hyphae is a special characteristics of this third kingdom. Now we have our plantae. Metaphyta is also being called. You remember it as plant kingdom. You know why you call that as plant, because of the presence of its special cell. It has proper nucleus, cell wall, and even it has chlorophyll. That's something very important for making food for us, right? And you have different varieties of this plants. You have shrubs, herbs, and the tree based on the various the way how they are available in the nature. And the fifth important is kingdom Animalia. And when you talk about Animalia, it's not us, it's about so many different varieties we have in nature. So you know the characteristics. Why I'm not discussing the characteristics too much right now, because I'm going to take it one by one. It's multicellular and eukaryotic, and I'm going to make it more clear to you, eukaryotic and all. I'll deal with it. There's no cell wall in multicellular organism. It's only having cell membrane. and it's heterotrophic. This is something important. Can't make food, depends on plants. So some of the organisms who don't have actually bones, so these are also animalia, earthworm, mosquito, cockroach, right? और bones वाले आ गए तो it's like fish, lizard, bird, cow, and humans. So let's talk in detail about Monera. This is the general structure of Monera. See, in the body, inside the body, you have the nucleus. But just because ये जो nucleus आपको दिख रहे हैं कैसे है, scattered है, okay, and they are not the true nucleus. Their nucleus is I'm going to show you once I just give you a short idea of what exactly it is. The special characteristics is nucleus को हम लोग actually I should not use this word nucleus, is nucleoid को I'm just writing it down for you. So put today's heading, okay, Whittaker classification. I'm going to show it to you in your textbook even. दिस इज़ नॉट न्यूक्लियस, दिस इज़ न्यूक्लियॉइड. अब इसको न्यूक्लियॉइड क्यों बोलते हैं? क्योंकि जो न्यूक्लियस है, मतलब जो डीएनए के स्ट्रैंड्स हैं, वो स्कैटर्ड है इन द बॉडी एंड इट इज़ नॉट हैविंग अ न्यूक्लियस मेम्ब्रेन. इफ आई एम गोइंग टू टॉक अबाउट अ न्यूक्लियस, हाउ अ न्यूक्लियस लुक्स लाइक. अब ये एक न्यूक्लियस का स्ट्रक्चर है. क्या है न्यूक्लियस के अंदर? यू हैव द डीएनए स्ट्रैंड, देन यू हैव nucleolus, the condensed part of the nucleus, right? It has nuclear pore, which is important for migration of different important particles that are formed inside. Then the nuclear membrane. So अभी हमने क्या बोला? मोनेरा, right? Kingdom Monera के बारे में. So put a heading right now. First heading will be under today's date is Kingdom Monera. So the first point, important point, you're going to write it is prokaryotic in nature. Prokaryotic. क्यों बोलते हैं prokaryotic? क्योंकि जो डायग्राम मैंने आपको दिखाया मोनेरा का, उसके न्यूक्लियस के बाहर what was not present? There was no nuclear membrane and there is no nucleolus. Okay, so all they have is just this DNA strand, right, scattered. So that's why you call them prokaryotic. You can write down a question along with this date. Write a short note on Kingdom Monera. So exam में आता है short note लिखने को. So it's going to be easy for you to remember. Now we're going to do point by point, just in short, okay? Very short. So let's say the first point is it is unicellular. शुरुआत में, ओके, अभी हम जैसे ही मोनेरा के एंड तक आएंगे आपको समझ में आएगा इट्स नाउ नॉट ओनली यूनिसेलुलर, मल्टीसेलुलर भी हो रहा है, because they are evolving, evolution is happening, there is change of chromosome, or we can say DNA is changing itself. So now the organism is not unicellular, but for you just understand Monera means unicellular organism, और उसका nucleus will be prokaryotic. Point number 1 unicellular, point number 2 prokaryote. Even if you have written prokaryote as point number 1, no problem, okay? And very important, रहता कहाँ पे है? It's present everywhere. Wherever you look, it is there, omnipresent. It's found everywhere and all sorts of environment it's present. Now what about the food? It's photoautotrophic, मतलब वो sunlight को use करके अपना food बनाता है. Chemoautotroph means they have the ability of using the conversion of chemical energy present in their body into food. अब उसके बहुत सारे एग्जाम्पल्स आएंगे, आगे भी हम एक आध एग्जाम्पल पढ़ेंगे, बट फॉर योर नॉलेज आई कैन गिव यू स्मॉल एग्जाम्पल्स लाइक नाइट्रीफाइंग बैक्टीरिया. यू मस्ट हैव हर्ड कैसे पल्सेस के रूट्स पे रूट नोड्यूल्स होते हैं एंड देयर यू हैव सर्टेन बैक्टीरिया, दे कन्वर्ट अमोनिया इनटू नाइट्राइट्स, राइट? एंड सम आर आयरन बैक्टीरिया, वो क्या करते हैं, फेरस को फेरिक फॉर्म में कन्वर्ट करके दे कंज्यूम इट एज फूड. देन वी हैव मेथोजेनिक, मेथनोजेनिक, आई मीन्स it's especially meth means something related with, we are going to study that, but just a small introduction. आपको पहले से ही पता होना चाहिए ना. If you have the words in your mind, it will be easy for you to study. Methane production, okay, so it's like that. So meth is going to help you with that. So methane production organisms के अंदर, बॉडी के गट के अंदर भी होता है. इट्स लाइक इनसाइड द गोबर गैस प्लांट ऑल्सो दे हैव बीन प्लेस्ड, wherein the methane is converted by these bacteria into carbon dioxide and water, and many more examples. Okay, so what are the other form of, some of the moneras are even heterotrophic, they depend on others. Okay, so here we have next characteristics. It does not, even if you don't write this as a special point, आपने लिखा प्रोकैरियोटिक, इसका मतलब यही है, it do not have well defined nucleus, इसका न्यूक्लियस well defined नहीं है, right? तो इसीलिए हम इसको वर्ड बोलते हैं, we don't say nucleus, मोनेरा के अंदर न्यूक्लियस है, हम बोलते हैं मोनेरा के अंदर न्यूक्लियोइड है. ओके, मोनेरा के अंदर क्या है, न्यूक्लियोइड है, बिकॉज the DNA is present in a scattered form, it is not covered by nuclear membrane. What about the cell wall? How is the cell wall? The cell is covered by structure that's specifically called as peptidoglycan. So you can write this as also another point, which is basically made up of amino acid and sugar. So the next important point which we are supposed to write when you're talking about Monera's distinguishing characteristics, in your early days, in your 9th and 10th, you've learned about organelles like mitochondria, chloroplast, endoplasmic reticulum. वो सब मोनेरा में absent है. क्या है? Absent है. तो कोई तो होगा organelle. Yes, ribosome is present, but the smaller one. Ribosome is present. How about its reproduction? They do reproduction with the help of binary fission or conjugation method also, that you have learned in paramecium, I believe. So now another question within this monera, इतने थे हमारे characteristics. Okay, so depending upon the questions mark, you have to understand कितने मार्क का क्वेश्चन है. अगर क्वेश्चन सिर्फ 1 मार्क का या 2 मार्क का है, आप इतने पॉइंट लिखोगे, यू गेट फुल मार्क्स. बट अगर क्वेश्चन इज स्पेसिफिकली आस्किंग अबाउट explain the morphological understanding, explain different monera based on its morphology, or explain monera based on their shapes, then the answer lies here. Okay, so you're going to write this only. So make sure when you're reading the question, you read it very carefully. So morphologically matlab we just go to another. So we have morphology means the shapes. So based on the shape they have been divided into majorly 4 groups. सिर्फ 4 ही ग्रुप है, यहाँ के डायग्राम देख के मत आप कंफ्यूज हो, सिर्फ 4 ग्रुप है. सबसे इम्पॉर्टेंट है, ये क्वेश्चन आता भी है. ओके, 1 मार्क में आता है. मॉर्फोलॉजिकली टेल अस अबाउट मोनेरा. सो मॉर्फोलॉजिकल बोलते ही आप कंफ्यूज मत हो ना, इट्स टॉकिंग अबाउट द शेप, इट्स टॉकिंग अबाउट हाउ इट लुक्स. So the first one would be the coccus part. Coccus matlab it's round, and bacillus means it's rod shaped. Okay, then you have comma shaped, that's vibrio. Coccobacillus means thoda sa elongated hai, but you're not supposed to put your confusion in that. आप इतना लिखो, ध्यान रखो, जो इतने 4 पॉइंट्स जो आपके टेक्स्ट बुक के हैं, द डायग्राम इज देयर इन योर टेक्स्ट बुक ऑल्सो, बट स्टिल I want you to just learn these 4. Coccus, that's round, spherical. Bacillus, rod shaped. Then vibrio, comma shaped. And the 4th one is spiral, that's spirulum. So these are the 4. Now we have, so put over there a question. आप अपने टेक्स्ट बुक पे भी क्वेश्चन, डिपेंड्स अपॉन योर नेचर. आप लोगों का पैटर्न ऑफ स्टडी, आई डोंट नो, एवरी इंडिविजुअल हैज़ डिफरेंट वे ऑफ लर्निंग थिंग्स. अगर आपको एग्ज़ाम के लास्ट मोमेंट में नोटबुक्स और नोट्स ज़्यादा प्रेफरेबल है तो नोट्स में आप क्वेश्चन लिखो, और अगर आपको टेक्स्ट बुक ज़्यादा प्रेफरेबल है तो टेक्स्ट बुक में आप अपने क्वेश्चन लिखो, वहीं पे क्वेश्चन मार्क करो, क्योंकि टेक्स्ट बुक में रिवाइज कर रहे हो तो अरे हाँ यहाँ एक क्वेश्चन था, सो यूल रिमेंबर. ठीक है, सो इट हेल्प्स. सो देन लेट्स टॉक अबाउट आवर नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन इन मोनेरा itself. On the basis, next question will be from here, on the basis of evolution, मतलब जैसे जैसे समय बीतता गया कैसे वो अपने आप को बेहतर बनाते गए. सो ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ एवोल्यूशन, आई होप आप लोगों की टेक्स्ट बुक ओपन है. सो बिकॉज जस्ट पीपिंग इन टू द मोबाइल will not help you always. Make sure your textbook is also with you and you're underlining in there and marking. The first one which was understood was archaebacteria. That was the most primitive one. So what is the speciality of this archaebacteria? They could stay at extreme climates. So we were calling them as extremophiles. Extreme matlab बहुत ही extreme, wherein you're talking about the any kind of maybe a hot spring, volcanic crater. Can you think about yourself surviving in volcanoes? No. So कहीं पे भी survive कर सकते थे. अब बहुत ही saline, हम बोलते हैं अचार डाल के रखो, जिस सीज़न में आम नहीं मिलता we can eat so that वो ख़राब ना हो, right? That was a part of preservation, right? So why do we say that? क्योंकि उसके अंदर बैक्टीरिया नहीं ग्रो करेंगे और वो ख़राब नहीं हो. बट एक्चुअली जो आर्कियोबैक्टीरिया थे वो सलाइन मीन्स हेलोफाइटिक नेचर में भी सर्वाइव करते थे. मतलब अगर पानी में बहुत ज़्यादा सॉल्ट होता है तो भी वो आराम से सर्वाइव कर सकते हैं. सो यू कॉल दस हेलोफाइल्स. सो दे कैन आस्क यू वन वर्ड क्वेश्चन इन दिस. हाई सैलिनिटी कंडीशंस कॉल्ड एज हेलोफाइल्स, वहाँ पे भी आर्कियोबैक्टीरिया सर्वाइव करते थे जब टेम्परेचर बहुत हाई होता है. सो यू कॉल देम थर्मोफाइल्स. And in that we have certain methanogenic bacteria. Now there is a question here, I want you to mark it. Name Monera, or they can ask you write a note on Moneras found inside cattle or ruminants. That means they can ask you Moneras found inside the cows and buffaloes. What do they do actually? They actually are found in the gut of ruminants. मतलब उनके digestive tract में रहते हैं ताकि जो वो खाते हैं उनको digest करने में उनका digestive system, even our body also, we have certain, especially E. coli, and you must have heard of it. So the next evolved form of Monera was eubacteria. So this is called as eubacteria. You call it eubacteria. Pronunciation में तो आप eubacteria बोल सकते हो, लेकिन U means what? What does this word EU means? It means true, right? So they were called as the true bacteria. So they had same kind of cell wall. Peptidoglycan से ही cell wall बना है. And you have various important parts which you have to just understand. We have a type example over here, green sulfur bacteria, and even the sulfur bacteria which are there as an example for eubacteria. And now which is something very unique is genetic material तो prokaryotic था, लेकिन इनके अंदर क्लोरोफिल्स भी थे, right? ये पिगमेंट्स के प्रेजेंस से पता चलता है they could make their own food. So they had chlorophyll A, chlorophyll B, carotenes, xanthophylls, right? And these were the pigments that's responsible for photosynthesis. Now we have a special character. So you can see here, this is a diagram of one of the kind of Monera, but they were eubacteria. अब आप देखोगे इसमें एक सेल नहीं है, बहुत सारे सेल्स हैं ना, right? So what do they do actually? They were important. Nostoc सुना है कभी? You must be remembering Nostoc as the important bacteria responsible for nitrogen fixation. Now when you see एग्ज़ाम में कई बार डायरेक्टली क्वेश्चन ऐसे भी आया है कि ड्रॉ द डायग्राम ऑफ नॉस्टॉक और दे कैन आस्क यू the nitrogen fixing bacteria. So you can say what makes them nitrogen fixing. So presence of a cell called as heterocyst. It's not in the textbook but आपको मैं थोड़ा सा एक्स्ट्रा बता रही हूँ. Heterocyst is basically kind of structure that's responsible for nitrogen fixation. ये रूट्स में प्रेजेंट होते हैं पल्सेस के और बिकॉज ऑफ हेट्रोसिस्ट इनकी बॉडी में हेट्रोसिस्ट होती है इसीलिए दे आर एबल टू do nitrogen fixation, right? And what is the nature of eubacteria? They were heterotrophic and ज़्यादातर decomposers थे, so they used to do a lot of catabolic reactions. Okay, so they can be some more examples they have given in eubacteria. One is lactobacillus, मतलब आप जो दही is kind of lactobacillus, right? That is why at night when you put a small spoon or a small quantity of curd in milk, lukewarm milk, सुबह देखते ही you can see the magic, right? Milk converts itself into curd. So that curdling is done by the lactobacillus. So you remember these, they'll ask you the name of bacteria that helps in curdling of milk. Or this entire paragraph can be put as the uses. अब आप नेक्स्ट हेडिंग डाल सकते हो uses of Monera, various uses of Monera. So that can be in point. Number 1, curdling of milk. Then number 2, nitrogen fixation, example Acetobacter. Curdling of milk में भी example लिखना lactobacillus. And the third one, for making antibiotics, penicillin you must have heard of. So, and yeah, in the textbook they have given streptomyces, but penicillin is also example. Then composting and degrading. Okay, एक और चीज़ मुझे याद आया. In the previous topic मुझे याद है I saw somebody writing intrinsic 3 points of life of characteristics of living. We were talking in that. Okay, so let's come back once again. What are the uses of Monera, especially eubacteria? Monera के अंदर जो categorization था, especially eubacteria. The first was curdling of milk. Second, fixation of nitrogen. Third, we use them for making antibiotics. So in the textbook it's streptomyces written, but I said penicillin, but that's also correct. This reminded me of something that is somebody wrote intrinsic factor, growth के बारे में जब मैंने बोला, क्योंकि मैंने जो वीडियो में intrinsic word यूज़ किया था, यहाँ से ही 11th स्टैंडर्ड से ही आपको एक हैबिट होना चाहिए. वॉट एवर इज़ इन योर टेक्स्ट बुक यू ट्राई टू राइट दैट, ट्राई नॉट टू ऐड समथिंग फ्रॉम आउटसाइड. Okay, this is the basic funda of boards. Even if you are correct, you don't know who's checking your correction, who's doing correction for your paper. आपका पेपर किसके हाथ में आपको मालूम नहीं, क्योंकि जनरली अ टीचर इज़ बीइंग गिवन, जो बोर्ड के टीचर्स होते हैं, इज़ बीइंग गिवन अ प्रॉपर फॉर्मेट or answers according to the textbook, and they are asked to mark accordingly only. Extra answers are not given extra marks. So why do we have to write something extra? So उस question में बच्चों ने किसी ने लिखा था intrinsic word, so please avoid extra words. Try to stick to your textbook. Whatever your knowledge is, will stick to your textbook. In your NEET and all, you can go for extra things. Right now just make sure you're studying your textbook really well. Okay, so the next point was it was used for composting, compost formation, manure बनाने में help करता है, and then degrading oil. And also the harmful effect of Monera बोलेंगे तो what exactly it is they act as pathogens. They cause different disease like typhoid, cholera, TB, tuberculosis and tetanus. Now the next variety which we have understood in Monera only, it is mycoplasm. We have here. Now this is something very a different form of living Monera, wherein they do not have cell wall, लेकिन उनकी बॉडी इतनी रेसिस्टेंट है कि आप कॉमन एंटीबायोटिक उस पर ट्राई करोगे, इवन उसका सेल वॉल नहीं है, तो भी वो इतना स्ट्रॉन्ग होता है कि इट एक्चुअली क्रिएट्स डिजीज़. It is so resistant to antibiotic also. It can cause disease also. So majorly mycoplasm basically याद कब आते हैं जब कोई disease हो जाता है. Example, if I say we talk about the disease it puts in rice, yellow dwarf rice is formed, and even in the Animalia also you find abortion is also because of mycoplasma sometimes. Pneumonia is also sometimes because of that. Arthritis sometimes, and even meningitis, if you just remember few diseases. So they are all caused by Monera. So I'm going to take a quick revision. So when you talk about Monera, you know certain points: unicellular, prokaryote, omnipresent, phototrophs, chemotrophs, heterotrophs. This is mode of nutrition, right? So when you talk about their cell wall, they are made up of peptidoglycan. And what do they have as nucleus? They don't have nucleus. They have prokaryotic kind of nucleus. You call them nucleoid क्योंकि there's no cell nuclear membrane. And membranes कौन से present है? Organelles कौन से present है? Only ribosome is present. Rest double bound membranes are not, organelles are not present. And how do they reproduce? Through binary fission, asexual methods, and sexual mononuclear conjugation method दिए, very rarely. Okay. Then we have different categorization. We talk about on the basis of shapes, how the bacteria Monera is being classified. Then next categorization was based on the evolution. We are talking about archaebacteria. That means extreme environments में सबसे primitive form of bacteria. जो एक्सट्रीम एनवायरनमेंट, सबसे गर्म जगह पे भी मिलते थे, सबसे सलाइन जगह पे भी मिलते थे, इवन यू नो. सो यूबैक्टीरिया, वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट यूबैक्टीरिया, some same kind of bacteria but a better evolved one. They were mostly multicellular, right? They were not single cellular, it was multicellular, and they were heterotrophic in nature. और उनकी बॉडी में क्लोरोफिल भी थे. हमने पुराने में क्या पढ़ा मोनेरा में कि उनकी बॉडी में ऑर्गेनल्स नहीं हैं, सिर्फ राइबोसोम्स हैं majorly. So here they have chlorophyll A, B, carotene, xanthophyll, and they have various uses. So that can be part of uses of Monera only. ऐसा मत सोचना कि यार ये तो बैक्टीरिया का है, but they are part of Monera, no? So please make sure you write these uses in Monera. And special characteristics of mycoplasm, it's a kind of Monera that's without cell wall but highly resistant. It causes different disease. Okay, that's it for today.